insurrection, obstruction, indictments, civilly liable for sexual abuse. The one man responsible for all that could be sitting in a prison cell on election day and still be elected commander-in-chief for these United States. That man is beholden to Putin, weakened NATO the last time around, and is currently tying himself to wealthy Saudi oil money. He enriched himself when government stayed at his properties. He campaigned on wanting to use government to go after his political rivals and wants to expand executive power. If Donald Trump is reelected, our nation is lost. So let's roll up our sleeves, get to work, and tell the MAGA folks no more before it's too late. Talk from the left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you from New Orleans, Louisiana. Blog Talk Radio has really crapped the bed. I mean, like, normally it's just try and dial in, and there's a dial-in problem. The whole website's getting revamped, apparently, so we can't access Blog Talk Radio today. So there'll be no phone line today, because I still haven't bothered to set up the Google Voice to be able to handle phone calls in that way. However, if you want to join the conversation, just leave your comments, questions, concerns, etc. over on the chat on liberaldanradio.com or twitch.tv/liberaldanradio. Either way, you can engage in the chat either way. Remember to support the show, like the video, share it, subscribe if you haven't already, all that good stuff. Become a Patreon, patreon.com/liberaldan or patreon.liberaldan.com. Either way gets you there. You can Venmo Liberal Dan. You can buy me a cider either by going to liberaldan.com, click the Buy Me a Cider button, or go to buymeacider.com/liberaldanradio. Either way also will get you there. You can, if you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to the Twitch channel for free. If you have, you can also use bits to support the show over there. You could buy super chat, super stickers, and also be a Liberal Danimal and purchase memberships as well here on YouTube as well. Thanks to all of the support from all of you, because we got up to and hit the 1,000 subscriber point, and we're still going strong. So appreciate each and every one of you for coming along for the ride and joining the show. And still a little out of it as it pertains to like energy, and a little out of it as it pertains to, so probably not going to do a super long show today. We'll see how long it takes for my voice to start going downhill. I do have the cough drops with me today, so I'm going to be sucking on those a good bit just to make sure. A friend of mine made me some special like herbal blend of tea that's supposed to help with the coughing as well. So we will see if that helps, if that does work or not. The coughs have calmed down a decent bit, which helps the fact that, I feel like I had, torn something or strained something in my abdomen, like a muscle in my abdomen. So every time I cough, it was just miserable. So even though I'm no longer positive for COVID, I still have the lingering cough that happens, but it seems to be going away more quickly than it had in previous times. So maybe it was just, even though it felt like I got hit by a truck, maybe the actual strain of the virus I got maybe was weaker overall and went away, and hopefully will be good for a little bit at this point. So what we got going on? We got Jolie and Aaron, the mod squad, in the house. Thank y'all very much as well for all of the wonderful things you do, helping me out for both here and on nerdydan.com. They both moderate both streams, and so I'm always appreciative of everything that they do. Got a bunch of people in the chat already. We got Alarasia, Dave, Mike, Steve, Kevin, Tim, Big Hook, Jeff, if I haven't said Jeff yet already. Jackie, Suzanne, Impeccable Living. Impeccable Living, hello, all you lovely people. I can't be here long. I'm having a very busy grinder hookup day evening. Get it. Have yourself all the fun. You're always available to watch the show anytime you want if you miss a show. So have yourself some fun, and then you can watch the replay later. This is an unofficial major raid. Well, awesome. Well, thank you for the unofficial raid. Raids are welcome, officially or not. Look at Aaron and Jolie, both with their fancy, I think it's bronze-colored Liberal Dan Radio loyalty badges. Thank you both for supporting the show as well. Not just for being mods, but for also supporting the show as well. For such a long time, y'all are great. Thank you so much for that. Of course, other people along the way do have their other different colored loyalty badges as well. I appreciate every one of you as well. But even if you can't afford or haven't gotten gifted a membership, you are appreciated as well, because every interaction with the show, every chat, every like, everything that you do helps grow the show. So anything that you all do is always appreciated in my book. Hey Janelle, what's going on? Good to see you. Hey Aaron over there on Twitch as well. So what are we going to talk about today? We've got a bunch of stuff we do want to talk about. We got a little audio from Amber Rose Petrovich, the good Amber Rose, considering the other Amber Rose decided that she wanted to go ahead and endorse Donald Trump, so F her, not literally. But, you know, no time for that. Ain't nobody got time for celebrities, especially, like, you know, as if Amber Rose isn't going to be harmed by a Trump presidency. Like, come on. It's ridiculous. Hey, Nick Rich, what's going on? Hey, Nerd Misha's here as well. Thanks for joining the chat. It's funny. Have any of you, I guess I wanted to put this out to the crowd. I haven't heard this conspiracy theory yet, but I've been very lax in listening to the radio show in the morning, the Jeff Carrera show that I used to listen to a bunch. Partially because of the fact that, as I found out, his show moved from 4 hours to 2 hours every day, and then he does another show a little later on in the evening. So I haven't had the time really to really, because usually I'm still sleeping when he's on the air, because I usually wake up right around the time when I'm about to start work, which is around 9 o'clock, unless there's an emergency or something. But I haven't been able to hear a lot of the conspiracy theories that would typically come from that show. But people that we know are traveling up north to New York, and there was talk of them going to Niagara Falls or whatever, or maybe trying to visit Canada when they're up there. And the husband of the people that we know, who's a very much big conspiracy theory dude, very, very MAGA, very, very right-winged, he was suggesting that he wouldn't want to go to Canada because he heard that the Canadian government was detaining Trump supporters and preventing them from going back to the United States. Now, this doesn't pass the smell test to me for various reasons. A, I have no reason to believe anything that he says because, you know, he believes in crazy MAGA conspiracy theory type thing. So there's that. But B, if you're a MAGA supporter in Canada and you're trying to go and leave Canada and go to the United States, why on earth would the Canadians be like, or the Canadian government, why would the Canadian government be like, hey, we don't want you to leave? You would think that the Canadian government would be like, please, GTFO right now. Get out of our country. We appreciate you leaving. Bye. Don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. So I've not heard that conspiracy theory. Like I said, they want them out of Canada. So that's one of the things that I'm wondering, is that have anybody else heard this conspiracy theory? Because if somebody else is talking about this, I definitely want to go in. I would definitely want to do a deep dive into it, because I'm somewhat just, I like, just conspiracy theories just amaze me, I guess amuse me, and also just I find them very intriguing. Just like how they form, how they grow, and you kind of have to know how these things are made, how these theories are made, because if you need to fight them, you need to be able to fight them from the source and be able to nip them in the bud, so to speak. So I would, if anybody has heard about that, Tim, we don't sell ear squares in Canada. Well played. Well played. Very, very good comment right there. So I found that very amusing. Thank you. Um. Oh, Chad's here. Chad, have you heard that? I mean, you are maybe. I mean, you're more centrist than anything. From what you've said, as generally speaking, as it pertains to your politics, have you heard anybody talking about the idea that Canada would want to keep Trump supporters in Canada that travel over there instead of being in a hurry to get them back over the border and back into America? It doesn't seem plausible to me that even possible or plausible that the Canadian government would want to keep any extra Trump supporters for any longer than they have to. But I don't know. Maybe there's some conspiracy theories out there that are different. So, first time you've heard of it? Well, there you go. So, I just wanted to put out there, if anybody hears anything about it, just email me, liberaldaneradio@gmail.com. If you hear any conservative whack job nutso talking about that or any other strange conspiracy theories, either tag me on Twitter, Liberal Dan Radio on Twitter. You could tag me over there. If you see a post, it's like, hey, check this out, or you can, shoot me an email at gmail.com, Liberal Dan Radio as well. Tim, we can keep them for a price. I don't know. What price would that be? I don't know how much money we would want to spend to that would seem to me, if I were going to keep a MAGA person, that would be kind of pricey. So a big hook every day. It's another Trump lie about Canada. Well, I mean, you could take out about Canada and just say every day it's another Trump lie. What's up, Rose? Is your mommy taking a shower? Is that why you're joining us, gracing us with your presence on the podcast? Liberal Dan Radio, 10% better than normal whenever Rose gives us a shout out. What's going on, Scott? Good to see you. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you for joining in. Remember to smash that subscribe button, hit that like button, get the algorithms up. Al Gore needs more rhythm, so we need to make sure we have all the rhythm we can, right? Hey, Dawn, what's going on? Good to see you as well. You are such a silly cat. You know that? You are a very, very, very silly cat. So, what else we got going on? We've got the Sonya Massey shooting. That happened before the last show, but I didn't really have the time to put into it in the last show because I didn't want to stay on air too long and hurt my throat too much. But I finally actually watched the entire thing today, and I don't understand, like, how these people are allowed to become cops to begin with. Like, how bad is their training? Or is it just the fact that these people are just absolute freaking racists and are just looking for an absolute excuse to just murder black people whenever they can? Because it looked like for a while that they were just having kind of a chill conversation. She's sitting on her couch, going through her wallet or whatever. They're talking. She then goes into her kitchen, and she goes and tends to a pot of boiling water, and all of a sudden the cop feels threatened. when she wasn't even the person that was the issue. Like she was reporting a suspected prowler outside the home, and then he got all jumpy because she went and tended to a pot. Like, what the hell's your problem? So, according to the Al Jazeera website, Sonya Massey called the police to report a suspected prowler outside her home. The footage shows 2 officers entering Massey's home to inform her. They found nothing suspicious. However, the situation escalated when Massey approached her stove to tend to a pot of boiling water. So 2 Sangamon County Sheriff deputies responded to a call to investigate the incident. In the footage, the deputies are seen searching around the area before knocking on Massey's door to speak with her. After knocking on the door, she has difficulty responding to some questions. She said she took medicine. According to reports, Massey's family confirmed she had been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. One deputy continued searching outside the home. Sean Grayson entered her house, followed shortly in by the other. In the footage, both officers can be seen talking with her inside her home. For a while, they're just talking to her and asking for her ID. They notice a pot of boiling water on the stove, so she stands up and moves to the kitchen to turn off the heat. So nobody seems to have a problem with her going over to the kitchen to get the pot, but as soon as she gets the pot, they start moving away. And she starts saying something about, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," and then he kills her. Like, you could have just left the house. Like, she was not a threat to you, dude. And then she was shot in the head also, not just, in the leg or in the arm or something. I know they say center mass, but that wasn't even center mass. That's in the frickin' head. And then he has a history of... Grayson is a 30-year-old white officer whose career included brief roles as a part-time officer in 3 small police departments and a full-time position in a 4th, alongside some full-time roles at 2 sheriff's offices, all in central Illinois. He's changed jobs 6 times since 2020. According to Al Jazeera, it's claimed that it's not clear as to why he changed jobs so quickly, but I've seen other reports that are saying that he has a history of not being a good cop. So, Jeff Curry, I'll be damned. I thought Steve Bannon was the only one scared of hot water. Getting yourself clean is, hard. Let's see, are you having volume issues? Let's see if I can see any issues with my volume. It's probably my computer being stupid again. So let's go ahead and open this up and just see what the volume settings are when it comes to the output. That's at 71, so let's raise it up to 100. That should help things. Too many cops are way undertrained. And, I've been to, a citizens police academy before. I've gone through, the simulators or whatever. And the simulators will flat out tell you if you took action correctly or if you took action incorrectly. Like, were you too quick in drawing your weapon? Were you not quick enough in drawing your weapon? And actually it turned out when I in the simulator, when I actually shot somebody who was like an older white dude who was about to threaten his date with a knife at a restaurant, I think I pulled out my gun and used it exactly at the right time I was supposed to. So, yay me. But then they had another one dealing with, somebody that was, kind of flailing around and being kind of weird. But the person never pulled a gun. And I guess they were trying to tell you that sometimes you go into situations where you don't know, and the person might just be nuts or crazy, and you can't tell whether or not the person is reaching for something bad or not. Problem is that they need to be better trained in dealing with sort of things, especially when dealing with de-escalation. Like, as soon as they saw that there was no problem, they should have just been like, all right, well, we don't see anything. If you witness anything else, if you notice anything else, just, please make sure to call the police again, and we'll come back out and do another check. But, they could have just let it go right there, but they didn't let it go right there. They continued the, talking to her and trying to get information from her. And then all of a sudden, you know, someone ends up dead who shouldn't be dead because we don't train police officers, and we allow. I don't think we screen police officers enough either, because I think too many people are becoming police officers who have clear biases against black people. So, yes, Scott, vote blue, no matter who. It's very important to vote blue. Yeah, Bicycle Mike. They jump from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and it's almost as bad as or even maybe sometimes in some cases even worse, what the Catholic Church did. Because instead of protecting the people that they're supposed to protect, they just move, the priests around from one parish to another parish. Now, in police departments, you're just moving the police officer from one department to another department, just saying, okay, he's your problem now. Or moving him out of the community, hoping that he'd be out of sight, out of mind, but now the new poorly trained, horribly racist police officers who are using their job to, do it whatever it is that they feel that they want to do instead of what they're supposed to be doing, and it's to the detriment of marginalized and oppressed communities in this country. Mike, yes, we absolutely need a police national database. Let's see what the ABC News site gives. Review by Illinois State Police found that Grayson was not justified in his use of deadly force. Grayson, who is white, has pled not guilty to 3 counts of first-degree murder, aggravated battery with a firearm, and official misconduct in Massey's death. That's the other thing. There should be a point where, as long as you're following protocol and guidelines, maybe you should be able to have some sort of, police immunity or whatever it's called, when it comes to, your protection for while you're doing your job. But if you do what Grayson did in this particular case, that should go out the window. If it's found that you acted not within the terms of your training, and you acted poorly, and you acted while wearing your badge in a way that you were not supposed to, where you actually murdered somebody, then yeah, you should be able to be found not just criminally responsible, but potentially financially responsible in a civil lawsuit for the actions that you do. So we had one cop here that was a great guy, except for him coming by and picking my hot peppers to snack on. That's a shame. You shouldn't steal hot peppers. Let's see. Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board, ILETSB, they should have named it more cleverly, showed that Grayson, 30, worked 3 full-time, 3 part-time jobs in 4 police departments and 2 sheriff's offices over the last 4 years, all within the state of Illinois. His shortest term of employment was with the Kincaid Police Department, where he was employed for just over 3 months. Records list his reason for leaving as other. His longest term of employment was with the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office, where he worked 1 year and 2 months. Grayson was fired from the Sangamon County last week following Massey's death. Grayson worked part-time at the Pawnee Police Department from August 2020 to July 2021. His reason for her leaving is listed as other. He also worked part-time at the Kincaid Police Department from February to May of 2021. Kincaid Police Department told ABC News that Grayson was let go by the Village of Kincaid Board when he refused to live within the 10-mile radius of the village. They also said they had no complaints against Grayson and no disciplinary actions were taken against him when he worked with the Kincaid Police. The Verdon Police Department hired him part-time from May to December 2021, and he also worked full-time at the Auburn Police Department from July 2021 to May 2022. Both departments listed his reason for leaving as resigned. But why did he resign? Grayson then worked for Logan County Sheriff's Office full-time from May 2022 until he resigned in April 2023. He was hired at the Sangamon's Sheriff's Office in May 2023, where he remained until he was fired last week. ABC News is seeking further details on Grayson's employment history. It is clear that the deputy did not act as trained or in accordance with our standards. Therefore, Sean Grayson's employment with the Sheriff's Office has been terminated. Well, yeah, but you have some responsibility there in making sure that your police officers are A, are well trained, and B, are well trained before they go out on the streets and do, you know, whatever it is that they're doing that's causing problems within communities, especially communities of color, especially to black, indigenous, and other persons of color, to other oppressed and marginalized communities. Because you can't have that going on and then wonder why people say things like ACAB, right? I mean, I don't say it, and I have a video explaining on my coming to terms with activism video series that I have. I have a few videos where I discuss certain terms, and I do discuss ACAB, and I say why I don't say it, but I also explain why people reach that point where they want to say it, and I do agree with most of the arguments made by the people who do say it. So, but when you have police departments that are just playing hot potato with the horrible officers, you got to question whether or not they're really doing their due diligence on who they hire. And I mean, it makes you question the type of people that are applying to be police officers in the first place. Like, are they just applying because they want to be paid bullies, or are they applying because they want to serve their community? Say, Steve, you guys ever heard the police inner sanctum saying, write it in pencil, sign it in pen? That's a thing over here. Don't tell them I told you. Interesting. Well, like, I remember back in the day, I was seeing a lot of videos. We were seeing a lot of videos where police officers were yelling, stop resisting, stop resisting. And there were clear examples where the people weren't resisting, but they were still yelling, stop resisting, stop resisting. And it was confirmed by a caller to the show, and it was confirmed by somebody that I know locally who works in a police department. I'm not saying which, I'm not saying who, that there are police who will unofficially train their trainees. They will unofficially train the people. They will tell them, look, if you're struggling with somebody and trying to get them in their cuffs or whatever you're doing, always say stop resisting, even if they're not resisting, because if you say it, it will give you plausible deniability when it comes to trial if for some reason deadly force was used. And therefore you'll be able to get away basically with murder, because if you're shouting stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting, that might give the jury enough reasonable doubt, or make their doubt unreasonable, I guess. I don't know, however you want to word it. It would make it so that their doubt is enough so that they can't convict. And when I first brought it up, there were people who told me that I was crazy. The people that told me that I was crazy, people that told me that I was being a conspiracy theorist. There were people that were telling me that I was just making it up out of the blue. But I didn't think it was I didn't think that this would be a coincidence. Like, you have the situation where you have too many police officers shouting this on camera for it to be something that's just randomly happening. And then it turns out that I was able to verify via various sources that, yes, in fact, police departments or people within police departments, as part of unofficial training, will absolutely teach their officers what to say when they're involved in dealing with a suspect or whatever, in order to make sure that if something goes awry, that they're more likely to be able to get off. Instead of teaching them how to police properly, they teach them how to get away with shit. And you wonder why people have a problem with the police departments. Suzanne, dirty cops are on the take. Dirty cops are on the take too. Well, of course. But when you have the thin blue line, and you have the thin blue line happening, and so you have a bad cop, and then all the qualified immunity. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Moon Girl, over on Twitch. Appreciate you. As I was saying with this particular case, with the Sonya Massey case, that Grayson, the cop that was fired, qualified immunity should end once it's shown that you did not act within your training. To me, as long as you're within your official training, maybe qualified immunity should be a thing. I'm open to it not being a thing, but if for the people that want qualified immunity to be a thing, you shouldn't want qualified immunity should go right out the window if you're shown to have violated policy or protocol. If you're not acting like you should, if you're not acting as you were supposed to be trained, then qualified immunity should go right out the window. Steve, I used to work at a video store next to a police station, so all the patrol guys would stop in for coffee. That was my secret source for police info. Nice. They should be held to a higher standard, which leads to less officers. Well, maybe less officers or fewer officers. Maybe if you had fewer officers that were good, maybe you'd have a better time policing. Or maybe other people who might be interested in serving would be like, okay, I want to go serve because now you can be a good person serving. Because you have situations, and we've talked about this on the podcast before as well, where you had a case where there was a police, I think it was a woman, I forget her name, but she was a woman, she was in a police department, she saw bad things going down, and she reported it. And at the end of the day result was not her getting a medal or her being rewarded or her being, lauded and praised for doing the right thing. No, she was canned. She was fired for doing the right thing because she violated the thin blue line. And I guess they felt that their other officers couldn't trust her because she turned on them or whatever. Well, maybe they weren't worthy of trusting. Maybe they shouldn't be the ones who are trusted instead of her. And that's ultimately at the end of my video about ACAB and my feelings about this term. That's why I don't necessarily say it, because we don't have a society that will protect those good cops. So those people who would potentially be good cops have to kind of sit there and try and navigate this difficult system where they might try and do the right thing, but they can't do everything because they live in fear of their careers, of their lives, of their livelihoods, that the other police officers might get retribution against them for doing something that goes against the whole thin blue line thing. So I'm not going to sit there and say that they're all horrible when we don't do a good enough job protecting the ones that try and do the right thing. If we would do that and enable officers to go do the right thing, including letting people who report bad things, let's say, okay, if you are a whistleblower and you reveal bad things going on in your department and the department still decides to get rid of you, we should still then, find you a job or make sure that you're paid, because you shouldn't have to lose your livelihood simply because you did the right thing. So, and thanks, Chad, for stopping by. Good to see you. Appreciate you. What's up, Rose? You smell something funny? Me? Am I funny? Am I funny looking? You are a special cat. Not all cabs. Well, that's my point. I have a video on my YouTube channel about it where I go into why people say that all cops are bastards, and then explain why I don't say it, but explain why I agree with the majority of people on most of their issues and most of their points in criticizing or berating policing in general. Because I agree with the points that are made about policing in general. I just believe that there's a subset of good people who are serving as police officers who can't do as much as they would like to do because we don't protect them. If we would protect them better, then we would potentially see them doing more of the right thing and trying to be more vocal about it. Whereas now they kind of have to just kind of do things behind the scenes and try and move things in such a way that, moves the department in correct directions. Like I think the current chief of the New Orleans Police Department was one of those police officers who, in fact, she was told that she needed to do favors for some of the elected officials and fixing tickets or something like that, and it turned out, and she refused, and they fired her, and she sued the city, and she won. So she did the right thing, and got canned for it again, but she was able to find a position in another place. So I'm not going to sit here and say that, you know, that maybe the chief of the New Orleans Police Department currently is, you know, better than a lot of the other ones that are out there. Unfortunately, it looks like she's also being headhunted by the LAPD, maybe because they want somebody who has more integrity than other police chiefs are seen to have in the future. So, see, there was one in Minnesota, Trooper Roper, involved in 5 traffic accidents, least fatality. Yeah, there are plenty of cops that are bastards. Absolutely, don't get me wrong. I am very critical of policing and everything. Please, that's why I did a segment on the show talking about Sonya Massey, because we need to highlight the failures. And the failures here is not just Grayson. Grayson clearly is a murderer in my eyes. That's my opinion, that he is a murderer. He murdered Massey. Sonya Massey should be alive. There's no reason she should have been shot in the head or shot in general. That being said, the failure doesn't stop at Grayson. Let's not pretend that, you know, Grayson getting fired fixes all the problems in the Sangamon Sheriff's Office. I'm sure there's plenty of other problematic officers as well who are, you know, maybe not as bad as him, but are still bad. Because the biggest problem with policing that I've seen is that blackness is viewed as a weapon. Blackness is viewed as danger. And the facts and the figures show that clearly. Dawn, we just had a young man in prison die from over-the-chart BS with mental health issues, so pathetic, exactly. For anyone that hasn't been placed in handcuffs by the police, it's no fun. I've not been placed in handcuffs by the police, at least not yet. Tim Farrell, Daddy was a cop on the east side of Chicago. Is that something for that a site that I know? Aaron, nice. Aaron's. I've been in handcuffs, but not by the police. That's when you should be, right? As long as everyone consents, then it's all good. And there's Nerd Misha using one of my personal created emojis or whatever. Nick Rich, I was a dumb kid with booze. I was a dumb kid, but I didn't drink when I was a kid. So I started that in college. See, Big Hook, justifiable reason for use of handcuffs with a suspect has no weapons is stupid. These guys always want to get an adrenaline high from using physical force. Once handcuffed, you're vulnerable. Yep, exactly. And of course, if you're handcuffed for no reason, that's going to make people want to fight back or run. I have a blog post on this from, like, I don't know, maybe 2012, 2014, like, where people were questioning why are people running from cops? And I'm like, well, if you were black, why wouldn't you run from the cops? Why wouldn't you lace up a pair of sneakers and run as fast as you can? Because if you've seen all the way that the police officers treat black people, you might have a better shot running and surviving than hanging around and getting yourself handcuffed, beaten, tased, or shot. So I can't sit there. I'm never gonna be an apologist for how we do policing. We just, you know, I'm not gonna sit. It's kind of like I won't sit there and use ACAB because I don't believe that all of them are, but a bunch of them are. Should be a bunch. Abacab. I would say Abacab, but that's a Genesis album, I think. Let's see, I started one before. It was my legal for kids my age dummy. A few beers occasionally for now. Okay, fair enough. Suzanne, my dead ex-boyfriend pointed a gun at me. I'm terrified he had a brain tumor that was malignant. Wow. Anyway, but anyway, that's my little, I guess, not really a full fat man rant, but my full, or my partial rant on Sonya Massey and the shooting. I'm not going to show the video. The video is available on YouTube. You can look up Sonya Massey killing, or shooting, and you'll see it if you want to watch it. But I mean, you don't really see much because there's a lot of mess in the kitchen, and that seems, and also the hands for the officer, like as the way he's holding the weapon. I don't know if that's also a thing that they were trained to do too, or if it's just a dumb location of the webcam or the body camera or whatever. Was that you can't really see much because how the hands are holding the gun is blocking the view of the webcam, and it almost looks like he takes one action where he's kind of purposely hiding the webcam as well to block something as well. So these people know. They know what they're doing. So, yeah, 1981 Abacab studio album from Genesis. There you go. Let's see. Almost. What was it? A bunch of cobs are bastards. So Abacab, yes, there you go. That works. Big hook cameras and drone use can be used to determine crimes and processes. Phishing and lying to suspects results in hatred and qualified immunity. The methodology they use is bullying. No, that's the reason to end it totally. But the thing is, if the people coming at it with end qualified immunity, you're going to end up probably having a situation where if you get somewhere close to what you want, you can you're going to have some sort of probably negotiation, and you won't get a full end of qualified immunity, but you'll get something that maybe in the lines of what I say. See, if I was in Congress, and my goal would at least to end qualified immunity for people who violate the rules. Like if you're violating the rules and you clearly don't follow policy, you lose your immunity. And that to me would be perhaps enough to get people to follow the rules. Maybe. That being said, if I was in Congress pushing for it, what I would initially propose was to end qualified immunity, period, so that you negotiate backwards to that point where you would be okay with. So, Stargirl, thank you for joining us on Twitch. Appreciate you. You can give us a follow. There is also less. I don't know how I control ads that run on live for people that are not subscribers. If you have Amazon, you can always subscribe for free. It doesn't cost you anything. But if you go watch over on liberaldanradio.com, which is the YouTube link, I don't run ads live during the show. I only run ads on my. I only run ads either if I have to go out and leave for a second. I'll run ads real quick on YouTube, or I will also run ads during like my non-live videos, like pre-roll ads or whatever. So, Moon Girl, the strike system is something that Soft says 5 strikes to them equals no immunity. Well, at that point, they would probably just get fired. And that's the thing. I mean, this person, I don't know how many strikes they had against them in their other jobs, but he committed murder, didn't follow the rules, and got fired. But I think it should be more strict than that. I think it should be, if you don't follow the rules and it's shown that you don't follow the rules, you can get sued, and or the department can get sued as well. Put some pressure on the department to make sure that the people they're putting out there are trained properly and know what to do, and are not going to sit there and do the BS we were talking about earlier, like having somebody wrapped up, stop resisting when they're not resisting. There was a case in New Jersey, I think it was, where white cop, black suspect, in the front seat of some car, the guy keeps saying, stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting. And as he's saying stop resisting, another cop car pulls up, so you can see, so the dash cam is looking right in at the front windshield. And even though he's saying stop resisting, the video evidence is or stop reaching for my gun. That's the other thing. That's the other thing that they teach you, is not just stop resisting, but stop reaching for my gun. And so I think that this individual person, he didn't end up shot or dead or whatever, but they tried to charge him with resisting arrest because the police officer was claiming that he was reaching for the gun. When the second cop car pulled up, it was clear that he wasn't reaching for the gun. So the video evidence from the second dash cam proved that the cop was just lying and yelling out to stop reaching for my gun. Now, that's probably even the worst thing to yell, because if they're not reaching for your gun, but you're yelling stop reaching for my gun, but in the tussle of everything that's going on, if there's no clear shot showing that nobody's reaching for the gun, then you're just gonna, then that's gonna, again, give more doubt in the eyes of a jury that might be looking at a police officer saying, oh, well, did he murder? Did he not murder? Well, he was saying that he was reaching for the gun, so maybe I should believe that. Well, and then in Louisiana, you have stupid laws that they just passed in this recent session that basically says you can't be within 25 feet of a police officer while filming. Like a police officer can tell you and order you to move back 25 feet, and if you don't do that, you're now committing a crime, even though all you're doing is videoing what the police officers are doing. So they want you to stand far back enough so that your video evidence can't help to convict a police officer who's doing BS, like yelling stop reaching for my gun when the person isn't doing any reaching for the gun at all. Their word against the dead guy, but there's audio in their video. Well, that's the other thing, is like, that's what happens a lot of the times in situations like with like the Trayvon Martin killing. This wasn't a police shooting, but when Trayvon Martin was killed by George Zimmerman, there's George Zimmerman was benefited by the fact that he killed Trayvon. Why? Because Trayvon wasn't there to be able to raise that, hey, I was just standing my ground. I was just using self-defense to defend myself from this creepy older dude who was following me as I was trying to get home. The way that they've written these laws for self-defense in such a way, and that gets into the whole issue of affirmative defenses and what conservatives have done with affirmative defenses, which is a whole nother rant I've done before, but we can get into it briefly. Used to be, if you raise an affirmative defense, if you basically say, yes, I did the thing that's normally illegal, but here's why it should be legal. Here's the exception as to what I did. The person raising the affirmative defense, that's their job to prove that they were reasonable in their actions. You then put the burden of proof on yourself by raising an affirmative defense. What states like Florida and other red states have done is they've changed how affirmative defenses work. And they say, okay, well, if somebody raises an affirmative defense of self-defense or stand your ground or whatever the affirmative defense is, then the responsibility is on the prosecution to prove a negative, which is a logical fallacy. Asking somebody to prove a negative is a logical fallacy. So now the defense has to prove that they weren't reasonable in taking the actions, when in reality, an affirmative defense has typically always required the person raising the affirmative defense to give and show why the affirmative defense argument is correct. So that's another problem in the entirety of the whole system. But by making it so that it's the job of the prosecution to prove a negative, which is a logical fallacy, you then end up having a situation where you're better off if you're defending yourself, if you're trying to claim self-defense in these red states, you're better off firing the gun and killing the person, because then they can't testify against you. Because if they're alive and they can testify against you, they can then counteract your version of the events. And we should never have laws that make it so that you are better off if you kill the person than if you don't kill the person. But that's what these conservatives want. They want to be able to live their life as a video game. They want to be able to live their life in a way that, they want to be able to be Rambo in the streets, even though most of them are cowards. It's one of the reasons why we can't allow any more conservatives to gain an ounce of power in this country. We cannot allow conservatism to gain any inch, federally, state, local, wherever. Whatever you cannot allow conservatives. You have to fight back against conservatism every step of the way. You have to vote in every election. You have to get out and vote. You have to deal with whatever issues you might have with whatever candidates you might have an issue with, and understand that you need to vote for the greater good to protect marginalized and oppressed people specifically. Because by allowing them to gain more power, you're allowing them to get away with more of this BS. Which is why we're going to segue into my problem with David Hogg. Everybody knows David Hogg, former student, survivor of a school shooting, became a very big pro gun reform activist. He goes out and tweets last night, if the VP is somebody to the right of the Vice President Harris, we will lose all the momentum we have gained with the youth vote, is what David Hogg says. And I'm like, no, shut up. What is your problem? We all need to unite. We need to unite, and we need to unite on Harris, on regardless of who she picks to be the VP candidate for her, because we need to fucking beat Donald Trump. We need to beat Donald Trump. And then, so I said, there are people that I don't know that they don't like Harris. They're not fans of Harris at all. They don't like what she did in California. They think she's a cop, going back to the all cops are bastards things. But those people also care about the future of the country. So I've seen several posts where people have said they're going to cast the vote for Kamala Harris for the vice president, and while whispering, all cops are bastards. Just because they understand the actual problem that will happen to this country if Donald Trump is allowed to regain the presidency. And I was like, that should be your message. And then he's like, I cannot overstate how fucking important this is for that we'll lose the momentum of the youth vote if we pick somebody who's to the right of Vice President Harris. And I'm like, I cannot overstate how mind-numbingly ridiculous your tweet was. Get over yourself. Harris needs to win. Stop saying, we need to stop saying things that are going to, end up harming our own causes. Because we love to attack our own. And I say this, I understand that I'm saying this as I'm criticizing David Hogg. But I'm criticizing David Hogg because he's being an idiot with this. Of course, he goes, somebody else responds to him, is it possible to be the left of Harris? I'm like, of course it's possible to be the left of Harris. But MAGA, conservative, crazy extremists who are so far to the right that they call Joe Biden a socialist are not going to see the difference between somebody to the left of Kamala Harris and Kamala Harris, or to the right of Kamala Harris. Everyone who's a Democrat, they're going to see as being exactly the same, because the difference to them are so small. It's like, we might see the difference as the difference between, a couple of states, but they're looking at it from Uranus. So they just see the little blue speck and say, oh, all of that's the same thing. That's Earth, that's all the same thing. That's all liberal leftists. But, in reality, they're much further away than that. So Jeff Curry saw a video of a guy getting out of jail, family waiting on him, but they had 3 cops there to act like he was already in trouble again for a joke. I've done some good ones, but wow, yeah, that's terrible. There was an incident, police killed a black man and buried him for cover-up. I mean, there was a case, the Danziger Bridge shooting for Katrina, where there were police officers who, did terrible things, and some of them actually were convicted and then got their sentences overturned or whatever. So, Gen X George, thank you for that. Interesting comment. Let's see, same here, Nick Rich. The truckers' blockade were allowed to go too far, but it never escalated to violence. The idiots in Alberta came with weapons, cache of illegal weapons. The nuts are dangerous. Nuts are very dangerous. So, yes, Uranus. Jeff, I went to the Uranus store the other day. They was out of RC in glass bottles. If you live that close, if you live that close to the Uranus store for the fudge factory, one day we're gonna have to meet up, because I definitely one day want to travel to Uranus to get the fudge. Let's see. Moongirl, I saw that on Daily Dose of Internet. Not funny, like the cop pulling the girl over for not driving with an ice cream on a hot day or something. Yeah, about 10 minutes. Jeff lives 10 minutes. No wonder why Jeff has such a potty brain, because he lives 10 minutes away from Uranus. If I lived 10 minutes away from Uranus, I wouldn't be able to stop making the jokes either. Currently, as it stands, the only time I make the jokes is when their posts come across my Facebook feed, and then of course I have to make a Uranus comment because, well, it's Uranus, and I have the brain of a 13-year-old sometimes. So. But anyway, but yeah, I was not very pleased with David Hogg and his little tweet there. Just aggravating that these people, don't understand. Like, he doesn't seem to understand. He's like, I cannot understand how fucking important this is. It's fucking important to make sure that Trump loses, so stop being a dickbag. Stop trying to self-sabotage. Because that's what we end up doing. We end up self-sabotaging ourselves and then wondering, well, why did this happen? It happened because we were idiots and we didn't come together. Because the one thing that the Republicans do that we don't is fall in line. The Republican Party will absolutely... There are some Republicans who are against Trump. That's true. But the vast majority of them fall in line. Ted frickin' Cruz, the spineless wonder that he is. He back in 2016 didn't even endorse Trump because of how horrible Trump was to him and his family. But now where's Cruz? Right up there, brown nosing or orange nosing or whatever you want to call it, Hair Donald, Orange Foulius. Why? Because he fell in line. Meanwhile, we're going to complain about who Vice President Harris picks as her vice presidential candidate nominee. Are you serious? There are more important things. I mean, yeah, are there people that I wouldn't be happy with? Probably. Am I going to worry about expounding on those views during the course of the election? No. Why? I mean, I might bitch a little bit if she were to pick Joe Manchin, but I don't think she's going to pick Joe Manchin. So that's just, I feel that's a safe comment to say. But then again, I thought the Louisiana Democratic Party wouldn't endorse Edwin Edwards for Congress that one year, and they did as well, so who knows. Never take away the Democrats' ability to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory. But, again, even if Project 2025 wasn't a thing, defeating Donald Trump is important because Donald Trump is an existential threat to this country. Now, we have Project 2025, or Trump's version of it on his own website, and another version of it on another website. So, we have that too, and as I'll say every show from this point on, Project 2025 is a big fucking deal, and we can't ignore it. And if you have people that don't know about it, let them know. Because as a reminder, when people share things, hey, this thing on Project 2025 on this page says this. Well, what do? They update their document and change the page numbering so that you go look at the page number and you're like, oh, it doesn't say that on that page. They must be lying. No, they move things around on the document just to make it look like the people criticizing it are stupid. When in reality, they're just trying to hide and obfuscate the things that are in their document because they want to be able to have it be policy of this country. I'm frankly shocked they allowed it to be public. I'm shocked they're this open about it, that this is brazen about it. They probably think they can be because of what they've gotten away with so far when it comes to the Supreme Court and how the Supreme Court has basically given unlimited authority to the presidents. Ironically, in the middle of Biden's term. Fortunately, we have a president who is, willing to, who is not necessarily just willing, who is a better person than Donald Trump, who will not take advantage of the power that the Supreme Court just gave him for political gain. Which maybe one might say that's another reason why we lose, because we don't go down to the gutter with the Republicans. Maybe sometimes we need to go down to the gutter with the Republicans, but I think it's virtuous that Joe Biden is not going to use his newly found powers that the Supreme Court anointed him with. It's virtuous that Joe Biden is putting his country above his own personal aspirations, because as he said earlier tonight, President Biden said that he felt that his accomplishments made him deserve a second term. And I don't disagree. I think he did deserve a second term. But if people were able to convince him that he needed to drop out for the good of the country, and if he now believes that it's for the best for the country for him to step aside and allow Vice President Harris to take over the campaign and have her be the nominee, I'm not going to argue with him. I think he's earned that. And it's better than Donald Trump would have ever done. You could sit there and show Donald Trump polling data that says you are going to lose to Vice President Harris by 40 points if you continue in this election. That's, no polling data says that. But if you had a situation where that happened, Donald Trump would be like, I'm not stepping down. F you. This is my party, this is my country, this is my job, and I'm just taking it, and you can't take it away from me. Donald Trump would never do anything that presidential, even when he was president, because that's not the way he is. That's not the type of person that he is. MJ Daniel, meanwhile, the Republicans seem bent on pissing off as many people as possible with the things they are saying. And good. I'm glad that I hope they continue doing it, because I hope they alienate as many people as possible, because we need all hands on deck. We need everybody out there voting in every state, regardless. Gen X George, I think she should pick another black woman. That would be amazing. Let me bring up the wording of the amendment, and we're gonna read this. The 22nd Amendment to the presidency. Let's bring it. Let's bring up the 22nd Amendment. We often talk about the 9th and the 10th Amendment a lot on this show. So the 22nd Amendment says, no person shall be elected to the office of president more than twice. No person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected shall be elected to the office of president more than once. This article shall not apply to any person holding office when this article is proposed, and shall not prevent any person who may be holding the office of president or acting as president during the term which in the article becomes operative from holding office or acting as president during the remainder of such a term. The article shall be inoperative unless it shall be ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by legislatures of 3/4 of the several states within 7 years from the date of its submission to the states by Congress. That's what this 22nd Amendment says. No person shall be elected to the office of the President of the United States more than twice. Vice President Harris could pick Barack Obama, according to my reading of that. So we could have Vice President Obama. Technically. And I'm actually... So, I mean, there may be people who might disagree with this and this, but the clear language wording of this amendment, no person shall be elected to the office of president more than twice. So, Obama could be vice president. Just saying. So, Jeff Curry, I wish Kamala would tease the idea of picking Mary Trump as a VP pick. I'd like to see Donnie Boyd's reaction. That would be funny. I mean, it's not going to be done, but that would be funny. But I think it would be amazing if Harris were to say, you know what, I could pick President Obama to be my vice president because there's nothing stopping me from doing so, and we could have Vice President Obama. So. Trying to see what else was said that I missed in the thing. Oh, talking about dispensaries and medicinal marijuana. I mean, you know, I partake as well. Did Dan just call Trump an Orange Julius now? I hate that drink. No, I called him Orange Foulius. That's what I called him. Orange Foulius is what I called him. I mean, I'm saying he cannot serve a third. He cannot be elected more than twice. That's the thing. President Obama could not be elected to the office of president more than twice. Doesn't say anything about vice president. And doesn't say anything about serving. The words, I mean, people who are who are in the Supreme Court, many of the conservatives are textualists. I would love to hear a conservative argument against that, because again, the wording is no person shall be elected to the office of president more than twice, and no person who has held the office of president shall be elected to the office of president more than once. So this is just talking about being elected to the office of president. It's not talking about vice president. So I see nothing that would prevent a former two-term president from being a vice president. I'm just saying. I think it would be an interesting thing to do. Maybe. Would Obama want to do it? Probably not. Would Vice President Harris see it as the best chance? Maybe not. But, you know, I'm frankly surprised that, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody if let's say, for example, that Donald Trump won this time again and then he wanted to serve again. What would stop him from being somebody else's vice presidential candidate pick and then have him that person resign and he become president? The wording of the 22nd Amendment seems to allow it, even though it's a technicality. So, it says you can serve 10 years because you can serve 2 years if you elevate yourself from vice president to president, and then you can be elected another 2 terms. But if you're elected vice president, you're not elected president. That's my point. Let me give a link to I'm going to give a link in the chat, because the way it's worded, it seems to be allowable. Even though what we've been taught is that you can be president at most 10 years, you have to serve just under, if you become president as vice president during the second half of the term, or less days or fewer days, you could then be elected twice. Otherwise, if you became president, like if the person became president and then immediately, you know, passed away or something, and then you became president as being vice president like within a week or two of coming into office, then you could only be elected once more, because that's how it's worded. But it's also worded that only about electing presidents and not vice presidents. So Anyway, it's nitpicking of words, but I would think it would be technically possible for her to pick Barack Obama as vice president under the way that the 22nd Amendment is worded. Not saying that she should, not saying that she would. I'm just thinking, I think it would cause conservatives to just flip their lids. They would blow a gasket. They would freak out. Wonder Mom. When do men exit puberty? 6 months after death. Hilarious. All men are 12-year-old boys. Pretty much. I don't know if the VP would have to be 35 or not. I'd have to go dig up that. I'd have to go dig up that text, and I don't want to go digging up other texts of the Constitution at the moment. It's possible. I think the VP might have to have the other requirements that are listed of the president, but I don't think the 22nd Amendment applies there. So, let's just see. What else did we want to talk about today? Apparently, oh, here we go. Cenk Younger with his pearls of wisdom. If Democrats really wanted a unity ticket that would get everyone in the party excited, they'd go with Harris Sanders. Yes, Bernie Sanders is old, but it doesn't matter if a vice president is old. He brings millions of voters with him. Do we want to win or don't we? I guess he's given up on his stupid run for president himself. You know, but of course he's going to say, I'm surprised he didn't say, she should pick me, even though he's not eligible to be president, at least. See, this is interesting. It's a Newsweek article reporting something positive for Democrats, which is shocking. Vice President Kamala Harris is winning over some former Donald Trump supporters, according to a new CNN poll. Harris is viewed as the frontrunner to win the Democratic presidential nomination with Biden's endorsement. Several new polls this week suggest a tight race between Harris and Trump, that Harris may already be pulling stronger numbers than Biden. CNN poll released on Wednesday found that Harris is getting some of Trump's supporters, though the former president continues to hold a lead overall. The poll showed Harris trailing the former president by 3 points. Still, the poll found 95% of Biden supporters are continuing to stick with Harris, while she is winning over 5% of Trump's former supporters. Of course, there's another poll that was out today that showed Harris ahead by 2. But of course, nationwide polling is meaningless because we don't elect our presidents by the popular vote of the nationwide votes. We elect presidents by choosing states. So it matters who's winning in states. That's the issue. I will always have issues with national polling because national polling is meaningless. Hey, Trucker John, good to see you. Glad you came in before I, before you, whatchamacallit, before I left for the day, because I'm not going to stay on too much longer because I don't want to overstrain my voice. Let's see. Just finished my first guest appearance on Tara Devlin Show. Oh, cool. That's awesome. I will have to check that out, Trucker John. Congratulations for being a guest on Tara Devlin Show. I mean, I am feeling overall better. I just don't want to overwhelm my vocal cords or whatever and make my throat even more sore, and cause myself to cough more, which then causes my abdomen to hurt because I strained my abdomen by coughing so much last week. So, but I think it's too soon to have any real meaningful polling data about this election yet, because it's too soon after Biden stepping down for us to get real data on how people really feel on the election. But again, when we get polling data, the polling data we need is not polling data from nationwide polls. We need polling data from statewide polls. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. We need that. We need polls that are going to show how the candidate's doing in each individual state so they can put their efforts in the right states, which might even be Florida. Because shockingly enough, let's see, Florida abortion amendment polling. Let's see if they have any polling data on the on this right to abortion initiative. So according to the Washington Post, Arizona and Florida could send big message on abortion rights. Abortion right position has won on ballot 7 out of 7 states since Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. New polling suggests that in 2024, abortion rights measures could do even better than they did in those first ones. Polling from CBS News and YouGov shows striking margins in Arizona and Florida for enshrining abortion rights into those states' constitutions. The current polling data has it at 60% to 20% in Florida. So that's like a 40 point margin in one poll. Previous polling in Florida also showed voters favoring abortion rights amendments by a wide margin, 21 points and 30 points in another. Florida's measure will be on the ballot. So an Arizona one might be. But if you have enough people getting out there voting on abortion and abortion rights, and Vice President Harris makes abortion rights one of the planks of her platform, which I see no reason to believe that she won't, especially because she's running against Donald Trump, the guy who made the overturning of Roe v. Wade possible because he was able to name 3 activist conservatives to the Supreme Court in order to get that done. It's very well possible that Vice President Harris could ride the coattails of that amendment. I'm frankly shocked that it got on the ballot for November. Amongst registered voters, 80% say they definitely will vote. 10% says that they will probably vote. Now, in this case, Donald Trump has the vote over Joe Biden, so we don't know what the polling data shows when it comes to Vice President Harris at the time. But if you have enough people getting out there who are not current registered voters, who are going to register to vote just to make sure that abortion rights can be maintained on the ballot, that's going to get more people who lean to the left out, which may very well benefit Vice President Harris. And if Vice President Harris go in Florida, that's going to upend a whole lot of stuff. Let's see. Adam Westish, I think Kamala's okay with Republicans, but they're not. But they're going to push the black thing really hard to make her look like their worst nightmare, a double minority. I'm sure they will, and they'll push the fact that she's a woman, and they'll push the fact that she's black, and that she's Asian American, and they'll push all of the stuff that she is, all of the boxes that she checks. Excuse me. So that's our clear sign that we're going to end soon. They're going to push all of the stuff that she checks, simply because of the fact that, that's how they get votes, because they have to pander and cater to the extremist MAGA white supremacist vote that's out there, because that's who votes for Trump most of the time. So they're going to push that because they're afraid of a strong black woman. Dated Vontel Williams. Yeah, well. But Gen X George, I'm only 11 and a half. Nice. Anyway, so I think it's interesting that there could very well be a chance for the Democrats to pick up Florida this time. I haven't thought that in a while. I also think, let's see, I would hope North Carolina would also be on the radar and a possibility of a pickup, simply because of the fact that Mark Robinson is a horrible anti-Semite, pushing some horrible things. Has also anti-LGBTQ. You should be able to defeat Mark Robinson handily. Josh Stein should be able to defeat him, and kind of like Obama did in 2008, he kind of rode the coattails, I think, of the senatorial candidate. I think it was kind of a switch, where normally it's the people riding the presidential candidate's coattails. I think in that case you had the Democrat person challenging Libby Dole, I think it was, because there were some residency issues there. So a lot of people were coming out and voting for the Democrat for the Senate, and that caused Obama to also help to get him to get the electoral votes for North Carolina. So I think it's possible that this could happen again, because Mark Robinson should cause Trump problems in North Carolina. One would hope. I mean, as a Jewish person, I really hope. I wouldn't put all my eggs in that basket, but I think it's a reasonable thing that it's possible that we could re-pick back up North Carolina. But if we were able to pick up North Carolina and Florida, by taking advantages of the Republican weaknesses in those two states, the Republican lieutenant governor, who's running for governor right now, and B, the abortion issue in Florida, if we could pick those two up, then maybe some of the other states aren't that big of a deal. But yes, Mark Robinson is a awful person. Hey, Adlohim, Mark Robinson, I don't care how strong he is as a black person, he is a strong anti-Semite as well. So F him. F Mark Robinson. How would you know that Mark Robinson is an awful... Adlohim wants to know why we would think that Mark Robinson is an awful person. Mark Robinson quotes. Let's bring up Mark Robinson quotes. He's a Holocaust denier. He has compared homosexuality to pedophilia. Let's see. Transgender women should defecate in public is what he said. Robinson said earlier this month at a campaign speech that transgender women should be arrested for using women's bathrooms, adding another event that they should instead find a corner outside somewhere. He said it's time to start reading quotes from Hitler and Stalin. Robinson told an audience gathered at Moms for Liberty's Blessings of the Liberty Breakfast in July last year that instead of criticizing the conservative group for quoting Hitler in their Jude newsletter, it's time to start reading quotes from fascist strongmen like Hitler and Stalin. Whether you're talking about Adolf Hitler, whether you're talking about Chairman Mao, whether you're talking about Stalin, whether you're talking about Pol Pot, whenever you're talking about Castro in Cuba, whatever you're talking about does another despot, it's time to get back and start reading some of those quotes. So he wants to read those quotes. He says, once a woman is pregnant, it's not her body anymore. Of course, I'm sure Adlohim believes that. During 2021 sermon, he says there's no reason anywhere in America that should be telling any child about transgenderism, homosexuality, or any of that filth. And he says, and yes, I called it filth. And if you don't like that I called it filth, come see me and I'll explain it to you. He called LGBTQ plus people maggots and flies. Months after referring to homosexuality as filth, Robinson said in November that year the straight couples are superior to same-sex couples because they can potentially reproduce sexually. He then equated LGBTQ plus people with what the cows leave behind, as well as maggots and flies. I don't care how much you cut yourself up, drug yourself up, and dress yourself up, you're still one of two things. Black Panther was made by an agnostic Jew and satanic Marxist. Robinson wasn't a fan of Marvel's Black Panther when it first came out in 2018. He accused the movie of trying to make black audiences more favorable to Jewish people in a Facebook post at the time, while using a Yiddish racial slur for black people. He goes, "It is absolutely amazing to me that people who know so little about their true history and refuse to acknowledge the pure sorry state of their current condition can get so excited about a fictional hero created by an agnostic Jew, i.e. Stan Lee, and put to film by a satanic Marxist. How can this trash that was only created to pull the shekels out of your slur pockets invoke any pride?" he wrote. He called Michelle Obama a secretly transgender woman. I'll be glad when he takes his boyfriend and leaves the White House, is what he said. Let's see. He says homosexuality relieves society's collapse. I mean, that's nothing new. In response to the Pulse massacre, directly after the Pulse nightclub massacre, the deadliest attack on LGBTQ plus people in American history, where 49 people were killed, Robinson said that being gay is still an abominable sin. Homosexuality is still an abominable sin, he says. I will not join in celebrating gay pride, nor will I fly their sacrilegious flag on my page. Here we go. Here's one that, you should understand why I don't like him. Adlo him. Jewish bankers are the horsemen of the apocalypse. Shortly after calling reports of the Holocaust hogwash, so he's a Holocaust denier, Robinson went on the podcast of an alleged cult leader in 2019 and endorsed the host's remarks that Jewish bankers are one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. The other three, Muslim people, China, and the CIA. And Robinson told the host, "That's exactly right. It's amazing to me that we live in this age of information where you can go online and you can find all this information and it's not hidden from anybody." He wouldn't be surprised if the moon landing or 9/11 was fake. That's just a conspiracy theory. Beyonce music has a satanic message, whatever. Crazy of all, Robinson stands by everything he said. The Republican defended all of his Facebook posts in a 2020 interview with local outlet WRIL, stating, "I don't back up from them a bit." More recently, Robinson has attempted to distance himself from anti-Semitism, claiming to support Israel, despite all of his comments denigrating Jewish people. He said during an October press conference, "There have been some Facebook posts that were poorly worded on my part, but there's no anti-Semitism standing here in front of you. I call that a big old pile of bull crap." Adam Westich, Black Panther was awesome and Mark is disgusting. Two accurate statements by Adam Westich. So there we go. That is a whole bunch of... John Depp. JD also called Trump Hitler. That's true too. That should be played over and over and over again. So is there any more controversial quotes that I can find in this June article? Let's just pull, let's see. He says, "There was a time when we used to meet evil on the battlefield, and guess what we did? We killed it." They're struggling with people with evil intent. When the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, what did? We flew to Japan, we killed the Japanese Army and Navy, we didn't even quibble about it. Some folks need killing," he continued. "It's time for somebody to say it. It's not a matter of vengeance, it's not a matter of being mean, it's a matter of necessity. We have wicked people doing wicked things, torturing and murdering and raping, blah, 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 blah." Of course, he doesn't actually say who those wicked people are. He later called on the guys in green and the boys in blue to solve the country's issues, although it's unclear what specific issues he was calling to be fixed in the present day. Finally, he said the country is at risk because the tenets of socialism and communism start coming into clear focus, referencing cancel culture and social media, saying they're watching us. Let's see. After calling for violence against federal law enforcement and spreading hateful conspiracy theories, Mark Robinson. So he called for violence against federal law enforcement. What happened to back the blue? Back the blue there, Adlo. Mark Robinson is continuing his pattern of chaos, hate, and violence. He is continuing calls for political violence are serious, deeply dangerous, and he must immediately answer more questions explaining who he was targeting. He's speaking about the enemies of the U.S., blah, 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 blah. No, he's not. Not too many direct quotes in that article, though, unfortunately. But yeah, Mark Robinson is a horrible person. And of course, who opened up the convention, I would think one of the first speakers at Donald Trump's Republican convention, naming him the official nominee of the Republican Party, was none other than Mark Robinson. So Mark Robinson, he absolutely has the support of Donald Trump. So if Donald Trump wants to support Mark Robinson, then to me that shows just, again, how even more dangerous Donald Trump is. Chris, what would you say to my neighbors who say COVID is over? I mean, the whole, it's like saying the flu is over. Like, it's not over. People are still getting it. If they want, show them my podcast from last Monday and this Monday. Show them how over the course of the podcast on the previous Monday, I was just slowly going downhill over the course of the podcast, and then Tuesday morning I tested positive for COVID. So wait, Adlohim, who are you saying that nobody said anything about Hitler? Who are you saying that nobody said anything about Hitler? Let's see, Mark Robinson, anti-women quotes. The only thing worse than a woman who doesn't know her place is a man who doesn't know his. That is a quote from Mark Robinson. Mark Robinson, I absolutely want to go back to the America where women couldn't vote, says Mark Robinson. We were called to be led by men, he says. When it came time to face down Goliath, God sent David, not Davida. David. Feminism was planted in the garden, watered down by the devil, and harvested and sold by his minions. He supports abortion abortion bans without exception. So I guess if somebody's going to die because of their pregnancy, he would just let them die. That's not nice. Yeah, homosexuality, any of that filth, and yes, I called it filth. We discussed that one already. On political violence, I got them AR-15s at home, and I like to go target shooting and all that. That's now what they're for. I'm not ashamed to say. I'm probably not supposed to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. I got them AR-15s in case the government gets too big for its britches, because I'm going to fill the backside of them britches with some lead. Yeehaw, Mark Robinson. So yeah. Mark Robinson, Holocaust. Let's just bring that up real quick. Yeah, Easy E. Judaism teaches that abortion is not only necessary to save the life of the mother, or the person who's pregnant, it's required. Jewish law requires that somebody save their own life if a pregnancy is going to be a threat to theirs. And not just first or second trimester. Like, third trimester abortions to save the patient's life are required by Jewish law. So there's that. See, Mark Robinson, leading GOP candidate for governor, also likened the toppling of he likened the toppling of Confederate statues to Kristallnacht, amongst other incendiary results. Mark Robinson, lieutenant governor of North Carolina and leading Republican candidate for governor, found his efforts to declare solidarity with Israel backfiring. Let's see. Newly uncovered social media comments, however, showed that Robinson's well-documented history of incendiary online activity is even more extensive than his remarks at the press conference suggested. A series of previously unreported Facebook posts, which remain publicly available, Robinson shared a quotation attributed to Adolf Hitler. Let's open up to see if it's still on. Let's open up all of these. Mark Keith Robinson. History, who said it? Number one, pride in one's own race, and that does not imply contempt for other races, is also normal and healthy sentiment. I've never regarded the Chinese or Japanese as being inferior to ourselves. They have the right to be proud of their past, just as we have the right to be proud of a civilization to which we belong. And that's a Hitler statement. What else has he posted? Nick Rich, Jewish people don't believe in the New Testament. There's no New Testament. There's not even an Old Testament to Jewish people. It's just the Tanakh is what we would call it. We would refer to it as the Tanakh. Mark Keith Robinson, it is extremely distressing that many well-meaning and intelligent people are so focused on long-dead Hitler while the living political descendants of Stalin are currently fighting to destroy our republic. So yeah, we should just forget about Hitler, according to Mark Keith Robinson. Ignore him. Forget about him. Why should we worry about him? See, the activists / protesters who tore down Silent Sam are the epitome of the lawlessness and violence that ushers the totalitarianism and oppression. They are no better than the NKVD, which carried out mass killings in Soviet Russia under Stalin. They're no better than the brown shirts who terrorized Jewish neighborhoods and ignited broken glass during the Nazi rise to power. They are no better than the very racists they claim to be protesting. Yeah, BS. You know, we shouldn't. The only reason we built, or the only reason people built statues to the Confederates is because that was another way that former Confederates and Confederate sympathizers and otherwise racist people who would rather no longer be part of the United States, who would still want to be in the Confederacy if it still existed, could lash out at black people by saying, haha, we're going to erect these statues just to piss you black people off. That's what they did. And George, Gen X George, no, we do not. He clearly never read history or studied it, and that's a problem. We have a system. We have polling data that shows in this country. Polling data on Gen Y Holocaust knowledge. Survey finds lack of Holocaust knowledge amongst millennials and Gen Z. 63% of those surveyed did not know 6 million Jews were murdered in the Holocaust. Over half of those thought the toll was under 2 million. Nationwide survey released Wednesday back in 2020 shows a worrying lack of basic Holocaust knowledge among adults under 40, including over 1 in 10 respondents who never recalled hearing the word Holocaust before. The survey, touted as the first 50-state survey of Holocaust knowledge among millennials and Gen Z, showed that many respondents were unclear about the basic facts of the genocide. 63% of those surveyed did not know that 6 million Jews were murdered in the Holocaust. Over half of those people thought the death toll was fewer than 2 million. Over 40,000 concentration camps and ghettos were established during World War II. The most important lesson is that we can't lose any more time, said Greg Schneider, Executive Vice President of the Conference on Jewish Material Claims Against Germany, which commissioned the study. If we let these trends continue for another generation, the crucial lessons of the terrible part of history could be lost. Holocaust was the state-sponsored mass persecution, murder of millions of people, blah, 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 blah. The lack of Holocaust knowledge demonstrated in the study is shocking and saddening, said the Claims Conference, a nonprofit that works to secure material compensation for Holocaust survivors. The survey's data came from 11,000 interviews across the country, conducted by phone, online with random, demographically representative sample respondents ages 18 to 39. It was led by a task force that included Holocaust survivors, historians, experts. So it is not surprising that we have people in this country who are ignorant of the facts on the Holocaust when we do not do a good enough job explaining what happened in the Holocaust. One of the people who I follow on TikTok was having kind of a debate back and forth with somebody else who was wondering why Holocaust knowledge was not properly discussed or taught in schools. And well, I mean, I went to a school that was Jewish day school from 1st to 8th grade, so clearly I was going to know about the Holocaust. I really don't remember if the Holocaust was ever mentioned during my high school studies or not. I don't think it ever was, because I don't think, and if it was given lip service and wasn't really discussed a whole great deal. So there's a lot of people in this country, and I'm Gen X. I'm not even Gen Z or millennial. I'm Gen X, and I don't remember seeing a lot of things outside of my Jewish parochial school about the Holocaust. Now I'm sure there are plenty of places that do teach the Holocaust, and they have, especially when I was, for people in my age group. But clearly, we have people who don't care to teach it as much in certain areas, and people are not being taught properly. And as we all know, or as we all should know, history, when forgotten, is doomed to repeat itself. So if we forget the lessons of history, we are going to suffer them. And that's, again, why we're seeing probably more people having no problems with the arguments being presented by Donald Trump and his supporters. For example, Donald Trump supporters and backers and advisors have discussed the idea of erecting concentration camps for undocumented people and putting them all into camps. If that's not a reason in and of itself to reject Donald Trump, ignoring everything else that he's done, that in and of itself should be reason to not support Donald Trump. Period. End of story. End of discussion. But apparently people need more. So ignorance is blissful to the ignorant. Yes, ignorance is absolutely blissful to those who are ignorant. Easy Network, I've had people compare Japanese internment camps to concentration camps. Even Japanese American internment camps were made to look like daycares in comparison. I mean, we should not trivialize, I absolutely do not want to take that. I mean, I agree with you in that the concentration camps were like the worst of the worst, but we should not trivialize what happened to the Japanese Americans during World War II, and FDR should not have done those things. We're clearly I'm going to agree on that, but the point is yes, we have, but I'm sure there are people that don't even know that they were Japanese internment camps. Hell, there are people, I never learned about what happened in Tulsa with the race attack, with the white people attacking Black Wall Street. I didn't know about that until I was an adult. I always felt that my parochial Jewish day school did a good job of teaching us about civil rights, but that's one thing that was completely skipped over. I never learned about that. And people should learn about that. But you have people like DeSantis in Florida and Abbott, who want to fight the education of kids. They don't want people to learn the truth about slavery. Like they want people to think, oh well, the slaves were just taught, they were being taught jobs and skills that they could use in the future. F that. They were enslaved for hundreds of years. Yeah, exactly, Z. I agree with you. Yes. Gen X George, Project 2025 is so evil because it starts with education, and one of the biggest changes to disabled students. They take Head Start away, free school lunch, separates kids by class. Not class. Yeah. Public school people, I think, under Project 2025 will be required to go and be, tested for, take some military test or whatever. Meanwhile, private school students won't be able to, or won't be required to. So they're going to use the people who have to go to public school to try and fill the military, I guess, to try and do his, military parades that he wanted to have done in his honor, as he wanted during his first term. Wait, yesterday on Jeopardy, a civics teacher, I was like, what? I thought that was done. I learned about that from the Watchmen TV show, found about it really happened afterwards. I was shocked. I'm not from the U.S. I think I learned about the Tulsa riots right before I watched the Watchmen TV series. I think that was I think I learned about that, and then I happened to watch the TV series. But yes. Aaron, I didn't know about Tulsa and a lot of other things in our history until I went to an HBCU. The most evil thing about 2025 is they go after the kids because they're going to indoctrinate them. Yeah. Well, I mean, Donald Trump has always talked about for a while that he wants re-education. He wants to re-education, whatever. And he also has this idea that he wants to have this. He frames it in such a way. We're going to go over some of these videos as the election goes on, because we're going to look at some of his videos that he puts on his website for his, whatever he calls it, Agenda 47 or whatever he wants to call his rebranding of Project 2025. And we're going to look and say, okay, this is what he's saying on his own website, and this is where it can be found on the Project 2025 page as well. So we're going to be doing that as part of the show. I just need to be able to focus and be able to. I'll probably start doing that after Disney World. I'll be away at Disney World from August 4th to the 12th or something. So that week I'll be gone. Probably no shows that week either. But we will be talking about. After that I'll either have videos that talk about those things, or I'll be talking about it live, or we'll probably do a little some of column A, some of column B. Yeah, Agenda 47 is Project 2025 in disguise. I basically have just called it a rebranding. It's Donald Trump's rebranding of Project 2025. I don't know about this. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Here's my deal. But what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that nobody can say that to you. I'm going to produce videos, just like I've done with my coming to terms with activism, just what I've done with the unraveling toxic masculinity, just like I've done with my fat man rants. We're going to make a series of videos on the channel that you can easily share, and we'll try and condense them to as short as possible so that people can say, okay, so people with short attention spans don't lose interest in the video. We're going to make them as short as possible. We're going to say, this is what Donald Trump says in his plan. This is what he says on, this is what they say on Project 2025. This is why they're the same. And this is why another reason Donald Trump is full of crap. So, Chris, yes, exactly. If A equals B, then B equals C, then A equals C. Exactly. Unfortunately, people don't know math that well in this country either. So, my disability payments were cut in half during. Ugh, that's terrible. Took me years and a lawyer. That is terrible. So, Chris, all I heard from people when they found out that I homeschooled was, how do they socialize and how can you stand being around your kids 24/7? I mean, some people actually like their kids, but, it is what it is. I love him. My name is Ben. Okay. All right, Ben. If that's what you want us to believe. We'll call you Ben if you want. We believe in calling people by their preferred names, even if it's not their birth name. Some kids are loud. Yes, some kids are loud. my kid, my youngest one, oh my God, like one of his people in the play group, which I think it's more of the moms are friends, so therefore the kids go, but the kids can't stand this one. And he comes to me after they come back home from playing at the jumping place or whatever, and they're like, he lied about me. He said another lie about me. I'm like, well, that's not good. I'm like, did they know? Yes, they know he was lying. I'm like, okay, good. And he was like, the next time he lies about, I'm going to tell him that the next time he lies about me, I'm going to punch him. I'm like, that's not okay. You're not supposed to punch him. You're not supposed to punch people. It's not okay to punch somebody just because they're telling a lie about you. And he was like, well, then he won't have anything to lie about. And I was like, oh shit, like, who raised this kid? Like, where does he get this stuff? I'm like, wow. But no, he definitely needs to not do that. But holy crap, it was very hard for me to keep in my laughter because, I mean, the kid is a pain in the ass. But Nick Rich, just remember that you're standing on a planet that's evolving and revolving at 1,000 miles an hour. So, hard to argue with his logic, though, to a degree. I know. I mean, I was just like, I told my wife about it, and she just busted out laughing, but he wasn't there at the time. But yeah, so, but yeah, I was shook when he said that. My favorite line of that song, Nick Rich, is of course, but pray that there is intelligent life somewhere out in space, because there's bugger all down here on Earth. So there we go. That's my favorite line of the song. My kid took her driver's test on the day Microsoft crashed, and now the DMV has no record of it. Oh my God, that's terrible. That sucks. My work wasn't really that affected all that much. I mean, we couldn't access our time sheets or whatever. Like if we had to like put in our sick leave, we couldn't put in our sick leave. And of course, it went down on the day I was going to put in my sick leave. But then we got it. Ours was fixed, and we were able to. Later on that day, I was able to test it and submit my sick leave for the week. So I was able to actually have that handled fine. But it didn't actually affect day-to-day operations of my working. Like lying about somebody probably should become a crime if done to harm them, like frame them for a crime. I mean, I think it can be. I think there is criminal slander, potentially. Let's see, let's just look that up real quick before we end the show, because we're going to end the show soon. Criminal libel. In the United States courts have based decisions regarding slanderous and libel statements, and the First Amendment requires free speech. Criminal libel is traced to the English Star Chamber. States continue prosecutions, although some adopt a limited truth defense. State libel prosecutions continued in 1801. Supreme Court allows criminal libel in state law in the 30s through the 50s. Movement against criminal libel is unconstitutional, take roots in the 1960s. Supreme Court eliminates common law criminal libel in Kentucky case. Some states' courts have upheld criminal libel statutes by adopting actual malice requirements. So, criminal defamation laws in 38 states and territories have either been repealed or struck down as unconstitutional. Many of the statutes duplicate civil defamation in Louisiana, Montana, New Hampshire, Oklahoma, and Wisconsin. By mentioning exposure to public hatred, contempt, or ridicule as grounds for the offense, Oklahoma shows particular concern for the reputation of the deceased. Michigan, Oklahoma, Virginia explicitly prohibit questioning a woman's chastity, though the fine is only $25 in Oklahoma. Florida, Illinois, and Michigan have provisions that forbid the libeling of banks and financial institutions. Florida, Idaho, Illinois, Michigan, New Hampshire, North Carolina, North Dakota, Virginia, and Wisconsin list the crime as a misdemeanor. Maximum fines in these states range from $500 to $5,000. Maximum jail terms can run from 6 months to 1 year. So there are still some criminal libel statutes, apparently. But it is also, Josh says in the chat, it is also civilly actionable. So yes. So of course there's civil penalties that can be done for slander or libel, depending on where it's published or said or what have you. But at the end of the day, the ability to make it criminal, you have to in some states you have to reach certain whatever. This is just another, I guess, reminder before we end the show, is that not just that we should remember that Project 2025 is a thing, and then we need to make sure to fight it and make sure that people who don't know about it and know the tactics that they're using when it comes to preventing people from knowing about what's actually in the text. But the other thing that I want to make sure that basically anybody who says that Vice President Harris is now a DEI hire is just another word of saying the N-word. So that's something that came across my page, and I'm going to forward that too. So every time anybody if you see anybody, hear anybody calling Kamala Harris the DEI hire or whatever, and using DEI terms to describe us picking or her being picked to be Biden's replacement as the nominee, just tell that person, just use the N-word, because we all know that's what you want to do anyway. So, not that I agree with people using the N-word, but hey, racists are going to racist, and let's expose them for the racists that they are. So, unfortunately, again, Blog Talk Radio is not working properly. So we were not able to bring up the show and start the show there. So again, we have no calls, but other ways to support the show, again, just if you want to support the show, as we're ending the show today, just remember, if you haven't liked the stream, make sure to smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed yet. Become a Liberal Danimal. Little as $2 a month here. You can gift the Liberal Danimal memberships to others. Okay, it's okay, Adlo. We know that you want to say the N-word. That's fine. Over on Twitch, you can follow for free, subscribe for, I think it's $5.99 now, but if you have Amazon Prime, it doesn't cost you a dime. You can subscribe to there as well. One other thing you can do, let's see if I can pull this up real quick. I think I should be on that's the wrong thing. We want to bring up Twitch, not Discord. Yep, I'm on there. Liberal Dan Radio. We have, let's see, what is it? So I still have some bits left over on my Nerdy Dan account, so here's just an example of cheering with bits. There we go. I just cheered a bunch of bits. So that's what it looks like if you cheer with bits over on Twitch. So I cheered for myself because I had some leftover bits to spend. Anyway, so that's just another one of the ways that you can support the show by cheering with bits over on Twitch. Again, you can subscribe. You can give subscriptions. You can subscribe for free with your Amazon Prime account. Again, you can gift memberships. You can use super stickers, super chats, or whatever on YouTube as well. Buy me a cider. Go to liberaldan.com, click the Buy Me a Cider button. Venmo me, Liberal Dan and Venmo. Just do friends and family because you're not buying anything. And all the other patreon.com/liberaldan or patreon.liberaldan.com. Either way gets you there is a way you can support the show month-to-month basis. So we're going to go ahead and end the show. There's no neat ending of the show because I need to find that audio and just separate it for the times when Blog Talk Radio is done. So we're just going to go immediately to the music, to the Nimbus music, but unfortunately the Nimbus music cannot be played on Twitch because they don't like it. It brings up a copyright issue and they mute the audio. So what we're going to do is we'll stop streaming immediately on Twitch, pretty much a hard out, and then we'll just play the music on YouTube so we can continue chatting for a little bit on YouTube as well. So unless anything big happens, I'll be back Monday, July 29th, to be talking about more Liberal Dan Radio, talking left, that's right. Just make sure to follow all my socials as well. It's Liberal Dan Radio pretty much everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok as well. So until next week, this is Dan Zimmerman with Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right.